Hello, and welcome to Dreamy Tales, a sanctuary where everyone can experience calm and a touch of magic before gently drifting into sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another enchanting journey, a story that helps soothe the mind and nurture a sense of peace. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a comforting, restorative rest. Make yourself cozy, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, let the cares of the day gradually slip away. It's not always easy to step back from the day's demands, especially as night falls. Yet, remember, the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the simpler it is for our minds to release any remaining tension. Allow the gentle flow of your breathing to wash away lingering concerns, and let the story ahead guide you into a state of deep relaxation. Now, settle in, and let the dreamy atmosphere softly wrap around you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into a peaceful, restful slumber here on Dreamy Tales.
Kenjiro, a humble tiller of soil, whose days were etched into the earth outside his village, found himself driven from his labors one afternoon by a sudden deluge. Laughter spilled among the farmers as they scattered, seeking refuge beneath the sprawling, ancient arms of a colossal cedar. Safe within that dry haven, the rain drumming a soft rhythm on the canopy far above, Kenjiro and his companions decided the moment called for an early respite. For nourishment and ease, they settled, sharing food and drink, falling into the gentle cadence of familiar chatter that weaves itself effortlessly between long-acquainted souls. As Kenjiro savored his meal, a delicate butterfly, escaping the downpour, alighted upon his knee, its wings painted with ephemeral grace. His hand moved instinctively to brush it aside, but Elder Sato, his eyes holding the wisdom of seasons past, stayed his movement. "A butterfly," the old man murmured, his voice like rustling leaves, "is said to mirror the human spirit. When we slumber, our souls take wing as these creatures, weaving the very fabric of our dreams across the world." A curious notion, Kenjiro mused. Belief felt distant, yet he let the fragile creature rest undisturbed. Moments later, glancing down, he found it had vanished as silently as it arrived. Soon, warmed by soup and the comforting weight of sticky rice, a profound contentment settled over Kenjiro. He leaned his head against the cedar's immense trunk, the low murmur of his friend's conversation, a soothing current carrying his thoughts adrift. Before long, the world softened, blurred, and surrendered him to sleep. He surfaced slowly, drifting back towards wakefulness. How pleasant, he thought, this slumber beneath the great tree, the air fresh with the scent of cedar, mingling with rain-washed earth. Yet, as Kenjiro lay against the yielding bark, a stillness registered, and the comforting sound of his friends' voices had dissolved. Opening his eyes, he found himself utterly alone amongst the gnarled serpentine roots of the massive cedar. No soul stirred nearby. Only the persistent drip, drip, drip of raindrops falling from leaf to patient leaf broke the quiet. His friends must have returned to the fields, he reasoned, leaving him to his rest. But scanning the landscape, he saw no sign of them. A light mist, borne alongside the rain, now coiled around the trees, obscuring the distance. With each passing breath, the fog seemed to thicken, drawing a soft, gray veil over the world. Kenjiro peered into its depths. From the heart of the densest white, indistinct shapes emerged, moving towards him. A procession, large and deliberate. As they drew nearer, their forms sharpened, revealing figures utterly unlike his farming companions. No tiller of soil ever wore such shimmering silks, secured raven hair with pins of pure gold, or trod the earth in sandals of such intricate design. Recognition dawned swiftly. This was a royal entourage. He scrambled upright, bending low in a gesture of profound respect. The leader, an older man, whose eyes sparkled with gentle authority, approached and bade Kenjiro rise. Such deference was unnecessary, he explained, for they were emissaries, dispatched by the Empress of Whispering Leaves herself. They sought him specifically, bearing a request of grave importance. Kenjiro straightened, absorbing the quiet majesty of the group. Each figure was clad in robes of crimson and gold silk that whispered with every slight movement of the breeze. Their hair, dark as polished obsidian, was sculpted into elaborate arrangements. A delicate fragrance clung to them, an ethereal cloud unlike any Kenjiro had ever encountered. With every inhalation, his senses swam in a complex tapestry of scent. Cinnamon, clove, and cardamom intertwined with the sweetness of hibiscus, lilac, and jasmine, underscored by bright notes of orange and pomegranate. It seemed this heavenly aroma announced their passage, a perfumed signature of royalty. What could such an august assembly possibly require of him? He protested gently. They must be mistaken. He was merely Kenjiro, a man of the fields. Yet, if they had journeyed so far, he would offer whatever humble assistance lay within his power. The old man smiled, a warm, reassuring expression. There was no mistake, he affirmed. The Empress had named him precisely. They beckoned him forward. Though bewildered, Kenjiro found their serene certainty irresistible. He yielded, joining their ranks. They paused, granting him privacy to exchange his rough-spun garments for robes of celestial blue and silver they had brought. The traditional attire, they explained, for a guest of the Empress. As he donned the silken clothes, Kenjiro conceded that if this was an error, the man they sought must be his very double. The robes fit as if tailored for his own frame. Thus began the procession's return journey. Kenjiro swept along in a current of awe. He marveled at the feel of the silk against his skin. So light, so fine, it seemed incapable of warding off the damp chill of the fog, yet it cocooned him in a warmth surpassing any thick cotton tunic. Even the ornate sandals felt impossibly soft, as if he walked not on earth, but on condensed air. Lost in the unfamiliar luxury, time dissolved, and almost before he realized it, they stood before the gates of a vast, breathtaking palace. Guards adorned in crimson and gold armor swung the portals open, admitting them into the inner sanctum. The Empress's chambers were a trove of splendors that defied Kenjiro's simple imaginings. Tapestries woven from threads impossibly soft adorned the walls, depicting pivotal moments from the kingdom's chronicles in luminous detail. Beneath his feet, every inch of floor lay hidden beneath plush rugs, rich furs, or exquisitely crafted bamboo mats. High above, the ceiling was pierced by numerous small, delicate glass panes. Kenjiro pictured himself lying there at twilight upon one of those yielding rugs, watching the first stars ignite through the crystalline windows. The Empress herself wore robes of the purest, most radiant cream-colored fabric Kenjiro had ever beheld, while his own borrowed silks shimmered, reflecting the lantern light scattered throughout the chamber. Hers seemed to emanate a soft luminescence of their own. They were intricately embroidered with crimson threads, forming clusters of small, round lychee fruits, rendered with such succulent realism that Kenjiro felt his mouth water involuntarily. Then the Empress spoke. Her voice, though soft, resonated with undeniable authority. A mere whisper, yet it filled the hushed chamber, reaching every ear. She explained they had observed Kenjiro from afar, recognizing his profound understanding of the earth, his unparalleled skill in coaxing life from the soil. He possessed the very qualities needed to revitalize a certain jewel of her domain, a small island blessed with rich earth and industrious inhabitants, though lately fallen upon leaner times. The entire realm, she conveyed, would be indebted if Kenjiro would consent to serve as its governor. Overwhelmed, seeing no other course, he accepted the honor with humble grace. The Empress smiled, a subtle curve of her lips that confirmed her judgment. The right choice had been made. Kenjiro spent the ensuing days within the palace walls, preparing for his voyage to the island, which lay nestled midstream in a wide, placid river. The sheer improbability of his fortune still stunned him, yet the flurry of preparations left scant moments for reflection. At last, the day of departure dawned. Accompanied by several advisors, Kenjiro embarked on the journey. They traversed landscapes that felt like the whole breadth of the land, rolling over verdant hills, passing through bustling cities and quiet hamlets. The final stage required crossing the wide river, a passage undertaken aboard a magnificent wooden vessel, whose sails, billowing gracefully, were the same creamy white as the Empress's robes. On the ship's deck, Kenjiro finally allowed his mind to quiet. Standing at the prow, he closed his eyes, feeling the gentle warmth of the sun kiss the backs of his hands. The fresh river air streamed through his hair, loose strands dancing lightly against his face. Avian calls echoed across the water, harmonizing with the soft lapping of the current against the hull. The vessel's serene, rhythmic rocking reminded Kenjiro of his simple hammock back home, swaying in the languid summer breeze. Soon, the island emerged from the haze, a verdant jewel on the water, and the ship glided towards the dock. The moment Kenjiro stepped ashore, he felt the truth of the Empress's words resonate through the soles of his feet. The earth beneath him was yielding, damp, intensely alive. Tall, luxuriant grasses carpeted every visible space, and majestic trees cast cool, dappled shade across the territory. His advisors guided him towards the governor's estate, his designated residence and workplace. As they approached the dwelling, the advisors offered apologies for its modest scale compared to the imperial palace. But Kenjiro, whose world had never extended beyond his family's farmhouse, could scarcely comprehend its comfort. Smaller than the Empress's abode, certainly, yet it boasted numerous rooms, furnished with deep, inviting chairs, soft rugs, and most wondrously, a vast bed piled high with feathers. He knew, with certainty, he would find contentment here, and indeed, he did. Though initially daunted by the weight of his duties, over the course of his first year, he came to understand the island's people, their rhythms, their lives. Together, through shared effort and Kenjiro's innate wisdom of the soil, they brought forth the first truly abundant harvest the island had seen in over a decade. To commemorate this triumph, Kenjiro hosted a magnificent feast, ensuring every single citizen shared in the celebration. In this manner, seasons turned, years flowed by. 15 years he served as governor, patiently transforming the island into a sanctuary, a thriving haven for its inhabitants. The once wild woodlands were gently tamed, cultivated into orchards, yielding the most succulent plums, cherries, and pears in the entire kingdom. The fields, formerly neglected, now produce such quantities of rice and grain annually that they could feed the island tenfold. Kenjiro ensured the surplus flowed back across the river, a shared bounty for the Empress's realm. As governor, Kenjiro earned the deep affection of the islanders. He mediated disputes with fairness and gentle humor. He orchestrated joyous celebrations for births, unions, and milestones. And often he found solace and purpose working alongside the people in the fields, reconnecting with the fundamental act of farming that was etched into his being. Then, one day, a messenger arrived from the Empress. An attendant, disembarking from a familiar creamy-sailed boat, conveyed the imperial summons. It was time for Kenjiro to return whence he came. His invaluable contributions, the attendant assured him, would forever be remembered by the Empress and cherished by the island's people. A pang of sorrow struck Kenjiro. This place had become a true home. That evening, however, His advisors orchestrated a farewell gathering of unparalleled splendor. The food, the drink, the spirited dancing surpassed any festivity he had yet witnessed on the island. When the last echoes of merriment faded and the final guest departed, Kenjiro sought his bedchamber. He sank into the immense feather mattress, feeling it embrace him like a warm, downy cloud. Consciousness began to fray, drifting towards the shores of sleep. But before succumbing, he cast one final glance upwards. Upon his arrival, he had requested a single alteration to his chambers, the installation of small, delicate glass panes in the ceiling, portals to the night sky. Gazing up now, he watched the distant stars prick the darkness, twinkling like scattered diamonds. Within moments, sleep claimed him. The following morning, the Empress's attendant escorted him to the dock. The boat waited, silent upon the water, poised to carry them back to the mainland. Kenjiro took a long, final look at the island as he stepped aboard. The flourishing orchards, the fertile fields, the prosperous village nestled in the distance. Then the anchor was raised. The journey commenced. As they pulled away from the shore, a fog began to unfurl across the water. It was dense, pervasive, yet strangely unlike any fog he knew. It lacked the usual chill. Instead, it felt warm, soft, like being wrapped in a comforting blanket of cotton. Soon, the mist thickened to the point where visibility ceased mere feet away. Kenjiro closed his eyes against the enveloping whiteness. When he opened them again, the boat, the river, the fog had dissolved. He was back beneath the giant cedar. His friends gathered around him, their familiar faces etched with concern and amusement. He blinked, disoriented, running his hands through the cool, damp earth, still moist from the afternoon shower, grounding himself in reality. One of the farmers chuckled at his bewildered movements. "Enjoy your rest, Kenjiro?" he inquired. Slowly, Kenjiro asked, his voice thick with sleep and wonder. How long? How long was I asleep?" The farmer regarded him quizzically. "Only a short while, 10 minutes perhaps." Then, haltingly at first, gaining momentum, Kenjiro recounted his experience. The regal procession materializing from the mist, the perfumed air, the Empress's luminous chamber, the island entrusted to his care, the 15 years of governance, all of it. The other men listened intently, their expressions shifting from amusement to puzzlement. When he finished, silence fell, broken only by the dripping leaves. "What could it mean?" Kenjiro asked, looking from face to face. The farmers murmured amongst themselves, offering tentative theories, but before their speculation could take root, another voice intervened. It was Elder Sato, the wise old man who had spoken of the butterfly. His tone was soft, like wind sighing through tall grass. He explained that he had watched Kenjiro lean against the tree and drift off. At the precise instant sleep took hold, a tiny yellow butterfly had emerged from Kenjiro's tunic, fluttering from the very spot above his heart. The other men nodded. They recalled seeing the butterfly near the tree, but hadn't marked its origin. Elder Sato continued. Kenjiro's butterfly, he said, had settled briefly on the cedar's bark before being approached by several ants. With remarkable gentleness, the ants had grasped the butterfly and carried it down into a small opening at the base of the massive trunk. Minutes later, just before Kenjiro stirred and awoke, the same butterfly reappeared from the hole and flew directly back into his tunic. Perhaps this, the old man suggested, offered insight into the vivid journey Kenjiro had just described, the procession leading him to the Empress's domain and then to the island governorship. Kenjiro and the others exchanged glances. It seemed fantastical, yet there was one way to seek confirmation. Carefully, together, they brushed away some of the loose soil near the cedar's base, revealing a small, bustling ant colony. Within the miniature landscape, one section immediately struck Kenjiro with a jolt of recognition. It was a patch of earth cloaked in vibrant green moss. The recent rain had carved a tiny rivulet around it, creating the perfect semblance of an island surrounded by water. And floating in that minuscule stream was a delicate vessel fashioned from twigs and bark. Reverently, the farmers replaced the earth, careful not to disturb the tiny inhabitants further. By now, the rain had ceased entirely. After a few more words, the men dispersed, returning to their interrupted work in the fields. But Kenjiro remained changed. That day under the cedar became a seam in the fabric of his life, a memory he would revisit often. For the rest of his days, he carried the warmth of his governorship within him. Each time he plowed the familiar soil, sowed seeds, or reaped a harvest, he would feel an echo of the sun on his back, as if clad in silk robes. Every bite of fruit held a ghost of sweetness from the island feasts, and sometimes, carried on the breeze, he caught the faintest scent of a wide river surrounding a cherished, ephemeral home. And it should be noted, before Kenjiro finally left the shade of the great cedar that afternoon, he carefully placed half of his remaining lunch near the entrance to the ant colony, a final, silent offering of gratitude to his hosts, the architects of a wondrous dream. Let your breath settle into its own quiet rhythm. Allow the image of your sanctuary to dissolve, replaced now by the vast, sun-struck expanse of sapphire water bordering Australia's coast. Liquid gold spills from the heavens as you find yourself seated in a motor launch, the vessel carving a slow path toward a jewel of an island, dense with palms and unfamiliar verdure. The gentle percussion of waves against the hull accompanies the thrum of the engine, a sea breeze kissing your skin. Far across the water, piercing the skyline, stands a tall, alabaster structure, the lighthouse of Azure Cay. Here, our narrative unfurls. This compact launch, christened the Sea Sprite, pushes purposefully toward the island the skipper affectionately calls Azure Cay. As the shore looms closer, he cuts the engine. The boat's momentum wanes, gliding now. In the abrupt quiet, the waves themselves seem hushed, murmuring softly against the white fiberglass hull. Peer over the gunwale. Teeming multitudes of minuscule fish dart through the limpid shallows, their collective movement casting fleeting, rippling shadows across the pale umber sand beneath. Ahead, the island reveals its small forest, a fragrant tapestry of palms and eucalyptus. Their leaves stir and whisper on the breeze, carrying a subtle perfume across the water. Thrusting skyward from this green mantle is the white lighthouse, its stark stillness a counterpoint to the restless energy of nature, where fluttering leaves echo the lapping water. The rustling foliage sounds like soft applause, a welcome to this diminutive yet captivating isle. Drifting nearer, you absorb the coastline's palette. Transparent shallows reveal the sandy bottom, transitioning further out into the lucid greens and profound blues of the ocean. A seamless gradient stretching to the distant horizon where water meets the bleached canvas of the sky. The sea sprite nudges gently against a wooden pier. You step onto the weathered timbers, poised for discovery. The skipper offers a farewell wave. He intends to fish, promising his return later to ferry you back. The pier delivers you onto a ribbon of incandescent white sand, encircling the entire quay. Leaving the wooden planks, you traverse the beach into a shaded clearing beneath towering trees. A crescent of huts and cabins nestles here, offering refuge for longer stays. Your fingers trace the smooth wall of one cabin, discovering a faint pattern of tiny grooves, an echo, perhaps, of the offshore swells. Beyond the primary cabin, a cluster of leafy trees screens the base of the Azure Cay Lighthouse. This edifice, the island's focal point, and the purpose of your visit, stands waiting, yet the allure of the surrounding nature beckons first. To one side, a weathered signboard details the local fauna. A quick scan reveals that the island's animal inhabitants are descendants of generations past, some having journeyed from the mainland, others arriving through migrations across time, forging their own distinct community here on Azure Cay. Embarking on a circuit of the island, you draw in its unique perfume, the mingled aroma of palm fronds, and the clean tang of salt water, the very essence of a perfect coastal day. Your path curves gently, the pier soon slipping from view. After a time, the tranquil water invites a swim. Distant reefs buffer the island from powerful waves, leaving the nearshore waters placid and tempting. Shedding your shoes, you wade in until the cool sea embraces your legs, then surrender your whole body to its refreshing clasp. For a while, you simply glide, then float supine upon the gently undulating current. The midday sun burns bright and strong. You close your eyes against its glare, cradled by the water, cool against your back, while the sun warms your face. The world reduces to the quiet murmur of the sea around you. After these moments of repose, feeling profoundly relaxed, you return to the shore. Shoes donned, you cross the sand to find a narrow, well-worn track meandering through palms and coconut trees. Fallen fruit litters the ground. You retrieve a coconut, noting the coarse texture of its husk against your palm. It feels heavy, ripe. Returning to the beach, where small rocks lie scattered in haphazard arrangements, you bring the coconut down sharply against a jagged edge. It cracks, releasing a fountain of juice that glitters in the sunlight. Tilting the broken shell above you, you let the liquid cascade into your mouth, savoring its fresh, inherent sweetness. Once drained, You use the rock again to split the shell cleanly into halves, then quarters, 4 crescent moons of white flesh glowing against the sand. One by one, you lift the pieces and consume the delicious meat, crisp yet surprisingly tender, releasing a sweet, tropical fragrance into the air. Nourished, you resume your walk through the trees. A low, persistent buzzing emanates from a nearby palm. Soon, you spot its source, a beehive curiously shaped like a pineapple, suspended from a branch. Its weight causes the palm to lean slightly, creaking softly. Giving the hive a respectful distance, you continue through tall, reedy grasses until the path yields once more to the beach. The sandy perimeter stretches unbroken around the island, leading back towards the main pier. You stroll along the shoreline until the celebrated stone tower commands your view. At last, you stand before the Asher Cay Lighthouse. Its entrance stands open, a grand pair of double doors painted a striking crimson. The lighthouse walls rise smooth and perfectly cylindrical. About halfway up, tall ledged windows punctuate the stone, perhaps 10 meters in height. Above these sits a viewing gallery, and crowning the entire structure is the immense lantern, capped by a roof that seems diminutive by comparison, like a jaunty hat. You step inside into a compact entrance hall bathed in sunlight filtering through high windows. Dominating the space is a magnificent spiral staircase, clinging to the curved interior walls. At ground level, the lighthouse holds a profound stillness, cool and slightly damp. The immense thickness of the walls, built to withstand formidable winds, is palpable. Furnishings are sparse, merely 2 plush armchairs. Black and white tiles form a stark floor pattern, contrasting with the white painted staircase and its ornate wrought iron banister. Beginning the ascent, your footsteps resonate in the cylindrical chamber, pausing on the first landing to regulate your breath. A deep inhalation, a slow release. You find that even here, the potent scent of the ocean permeates the air, carried on the insistent breeze. A chair rests near the window. You sit for a moment, leaning back, absorbing the vista. Beyond the fringe of palms, the ocean glitters, an endless expanse of dazzling blue. Rested, you rise, determined to reach the summit. The staircase narrows as it climbs, illuminated now by shafts of brilliant sunlight pouring through the upper windows. Finally, you mount the last step, emerging into a bright room with slanted walls. Your attention is immediately captured by a beautiful mosaic adorning one wall. Moving closer, you discern the artwork's subject, a green lizard lounging contentedly in the shade of a coconut palm. Perhaps it's fancy, but the creature appears to be smiling. Across the room, an open doorway beckons outside to the viewing deck. You step through into the full embrace of the light. 20 meters above the ground, the sensation is one of suspension between earth and sky. The panorama is utterly breathtaking. Azure Cay floats amidst an infinite ocean. Near the shore, the coral reef manifests as a dark blue stain upon the otherwise aquamarine water, a deceptive darkness, for up close, this reef is an underwater forest of kaleidoscopic coral. teeming with fish of every size and hue. This vibrant reef, of course, is the very reason for the lighthouse's existence. Your gaze shifts from the magnificent sweep of the view to a sign affixed to the railing. You begin to read. A century ago, Azure Cay was uncharted territory. Its existence remained largely unknown until the tragic disappearance of a grand merchant vessel. Years later, a search party investigating the loss discovered the ship had foundered upon a coral reef. While exploring the area, they spotted the vessel's hull breaching the surface like a metallic iceberg near a small, unnamed island. For many years, the wreck lay undisturbed by human hands, becoming a sanctuary for wildlife. Herons, kites, and other seabirds nested within its decaying structure. Then, one day, the last visible portion of the hull succumbed to the sea, vanishing completely beneath the waves. Now submerged, the shipwreck serves as a poignant attraction for divers. Resting near the reef, just off Azure Cay's coast. As you finish reading, a presence beside you makes itself known. Turning, you see a man clad in a flannel shirt and sturdy jeans, his expression open and welcoming. He introduces himself as Elias, the lighthouse keeper, extending a hand. You grasp it, noticing the dry, leathery texture of his skin, weathered by sun and toil. Curiosity stirs about the solitary life of a keeper, the rhythm of his duties. Elias walks to the opposite side of the lookout, beckoning you to follow. A slender steel ladder ascends toward the colossal lantern above. Climbing, you feel the fine powder of rust coating your fingers. Elias moves with practiced ease, already atop the 20 rungs when you reach the platform surrounding the stone structure that supports the light. Directly beneath the lantern, a small doorway reveals the keeper's private quarters. He invites you inside. The ceiling is low, the room surprisingly dim. It holds a small bed, a battered chest of drawers, and a stack of books. Inhaling, you detect the pervasive, saline scent that saturates the air. The sea's essence lingers everywhere in the muted light. Elias crosses to the far side and unlatches a hatch in the low ceiling. With swift skill, he mounts the descending ladder and calls for you to follow. Climbing behind him, you emerge right beside the massive lantern itself. The array of bulbs within creates a shimmering, multifaceted effect. Sunlight glances off the polished reflector dish behind them. Peering into the great lens, you see the world warped into a beautiful distortion, an abstract canvas reflecting fragmented images of your own face, mingled with patches of sky and sea. The lantern radiates a brilliant, silvery light. You find a chair nearby and sit, observing Elias, curious about his next action. He busies himself beneath the light, adjusting wires, employing specialized tools. His movements create a slow, metallic rhythm, a cadence you find yourself unconsciously breathing along with for a time. It seems Elias has momentarily forgotten your presence, lost in his task. Then he looks up, a smile touching his lips as he registers your quiet attention. "Let me tell you how things work around here," he offers, his voice soft, resonant. You listen intently as he speaks. There are two of us keepers, myself and Ben. We trade shifts, 2 weeks on the quay, then 2 weeks ashore. Ben's due early tomorrow and brings the boat and supplies. We'll pass the day talking, sharing a meal, maybe play some cards. Then I head back to the mainland come evening. My day's here. Well, I usually sleep from about 5 in the morning till noon. He pauses, a faint smile playing on his lips. Then, a swim. Cook something up. Relax. Afternoons are for whatever jobs need doing. Sunset's a real spectacle here. You should stay for it. And when darkness falls, that's when the real work begins. I fire up the light, check the logs for scheduled voyages, get on the radio, see what's happening out there. Just making sure everything runs smooth. That's a job well done, to my mind. While Elias speaks, your gaze drifts toward the window. Sunset is indeed approaching. The sun hangs low, poised just above the water, as if contemplating its plunge. Wispy clouds trail behind it, drifting languidly along the horizon. Glancing back at Elias, you notice he's bent over, focused on something in his lap. Moving closer, you see he's drawing, sketching a small parakeet in flight amidst a cluster of palm trees. He explains that sketching helps pass the time during his shifts. He usually completes a few drawings each tour. He offers to show you more of his work. Descending briefly into his cabin via the ladder, he reappears moments later, holding 2 crisp sheets of paper. The drawings possess a simple, captivating beauty. One, rendered in stark black and white, depicts a sinuous sea snake, arching gracefully as it glides into deeper water. The intricate detail on its striped body sparks a flicker of recognition. The other, softly shaded with colored pencils, radiates warmth and atmosphere. It portrays a group of cheerful tourists seated at an outdoor table, enjoying a meal. Vividly orange fish beside a coconut curry. The skipper who brought you here is among them, grinning as he strums a guitar for the holiday makers. You mention having seen postcards with a similar style in mainland souvenir shops. Elias nods, pleased. They are indeed his creations, he confirms. Then he gestures toward the window. The sun is now performing its final act. Half submerged, its reflection on the shimmering water creates the illusion of a perfect, fiery orb resting upon the sea. The sky ignites, transformed into a watercolor wash of molten orange and soft pink. You watch, mesmerized, as the sun sinks lower, finally slipping beneath the horizon, leaving only fading streaks of light in its wake. Looking at Elias, you're struck by his expression, a quiet smile, the fine lines crinkling at the corners of his eyes. Perhaps it's gratitude, you think, for the daily privilege of witnessing such splendor. With the sun gone, it's time for the keeper's primary duty. A sense of anticipation fills the small space. Elias moves to the rear of the lantern mechanism. He pulls 4 distinct levers, activating each section of the light array. Then, reaching down, he flips another switch on the mounting. The entire apparatus begins its slow, majestic rotation. From this height, you witness the perfect sweeping arc of the intense beam as it scans the darkness, illuminating the treacherous reef, searching the vast expanse for approaching vessels. You sense it's time to depart. The skipper might already be waiting by the pier. You shake Elias's hand again, thanking him for the extraordinary day. Carefully, you descend the cool steel ladder back to the viewing deck. One final, lingering look absorbs the panorama. Now a tranquil, starlit tableau. The ocean breathes softly below, and a gentle breeze seems to whisper a nocturnal farewell. Returning to the stone tower, you begin the careful descent down the long, spiraling staircase, step by deliberate step. Pausing occasionally, you peer through the narrow slit windows carved into the thick walls, catching fragmented glimpses of the night-shrouded world outside. Emerging from the lighthouse, you head towards the beach to find your transport. The night air carries a different character now. The island's bright tropical perfume has yielded to a deeper, dreamier earthiness, the scent of lush, sleeping vegetation. Reaching the shore, you discover the skipper. While waiting, he had strung a hammock between two palms and succumbed to slumber. He sways gently, mirroring the rhythmic bobbing of the sea sprite tethered nearby at the jetty. He looks so profoundly peaceful, you hesitate to wake him. Perhaps a brief rest for yourself is in order before the return journey. You lie back on the cool, soft sand, gazing up at the immense canopy of stars. Above, the lighthouse beam performs its ceaseless, periodic sweep across the heavens. Its movement is hypnotic, a silent metronome marking time against the stellar backdrop. Closing your eyes, you draw a deep, slow breath, releasing it fully. It is time to rest now, to drift into dreams, colored by the perfection of this day on Azure Cay.